Good morning from Cooking with Gerry. On the frying pan I have on low heat about half a cup of water and 1 tablespoon of salted butter already at a boil so that we can get started. In this container I have a fairly big piece of green cabbage that I washed and I chopped up into small pieces. Now this meal that we're preparing can be eaten raw. Raw food could be the best kind of food to eat because the food maintains its nutritional properties. Because the cooking process does some damage to the food, especially if you're cooking at a high heat, especially if you're frying food in a layer of oil. But I have to cook the food at least a little bit to raise the temperature high enough and long enough to neutralize the bugs or bacteria that might live in the tap water, which comes from a well. So I am going to cook it as minimally as possible while still trying to neutralize any kind of bugs. So that was green cabbage. Now also here is 1 apple and 1 beetroot. The apple was the last thing I chopped up because it's the first that starts going brown. And this is also going to go in just for 1 or 2 minutes. I learned recently by Dr. Stephen Gundry, Gundry. He's got lots of great YouTube videos, a podcast. Lots of good information. I learned from him that sugar beet or beetroot is best consumed raw because when you cook a beetroot you change the starch into sugar, which just means when it enters your stomach it's going to have a much quicker time at converting that food into sugar. So as I mentioned, this will be minimally cooked, and also apple, I don't want it to be like applesauce. I want there to be a little bit of crisp. And then here I have some nuts and seeds, roughly about 10 hazelnuts, 10 cashews, and 3 pecans, and 3 walnuts, and also a small handful of pumpkin seed and sunflower seed. That was soaking overnight in water, and when I woke up this morning I changed that soaking water so that the nuts and seeds could soak for a little bit longer in clean water. The soaking, first of all, it's suggested to wash any kind of dried fruit, nut, seed, beans, to wash them before you use them, before you soak them, before you eat them. Wash them to get rid of any field dust that might be on the product when it comes to your home. And I'm also going to add my usual 2 pinches. I have here coarse grain pink salt. And that's my meal. What I'm going to have also is this ripe avocado, but I don't want to cook it and I didn't want to open it up until I'm ready to eat my breakfast because it'll turn brown fairly quickly. And one final ingredient I learned from Dr. William Lee, that chocolate in its pure form is healthy. You have to go up to at least an 80% dark chocolate. What I have here is a piece of pure cocoa. I'm living in an area that's ideal for growing cocoa plants. So a friend of mine brought this to me from a farm that he's been living at for the past 2 months. And they put it in these circular molds. Sometimes I've seen rectangular molds, just a plastic container. It's sold like this, or it's also sold in powdered form. So I'm just going to cut a small piece from this piece of pure cocoa. Anything less than an 80% dark chocolate and there's just too much sugar, especially milk chocolate. It's a candy. It's not really food, especially when you have all those little sweet stuff inside that chocolate bar. So I'm just going to cut this little piece of cocoa, and I'm turning the heat off. There's enough heat left in the frying pan that it will melt this piece of pure cocoa, and there is enough sweetness in the dish that it'll contrast the bitterness of the cocoa. Sweetness is the apple and the beetroot, and even the cabbage is a little bit sweet, as well as some of the nuts have a sweetness to them. So I'm just putting that right in. Scraping off the good stuff. A little bit got stuck on my knife. And the other ingredient I will put is extra virgin coconut oil. Important for every meal is to balance sugar and not sugar, so that your body has an easier time maintaining what's known as homeostasis, which just means a balanced level. Too much sugar, the body goes into a bit of a crisis and has to send out the proper hormones to balance that sugar. So there's my meal along with the avocado, and I will let that sit for a few minutes. Let me show you what's in the frying pan. Here it is. Lots of nutrition, lots of different flavors. As I said, would be great for a raw food. If you bring this to work or school, it'll be a much healthier lunch probably than what you can find at your local food place. So that's today's breakfast. You can also put other different ingredients, lots of choices, depends on what you have. This can also be a side dish for your main meal, and this could also actually be a healthy dessert. If you need something sweet after your meal and you don't want to have the cake or the ice cream, have a small bowl of this and it could satisfy your sweet tooth. So, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.